Some people are going to miss the first session, and this is the most important part. So we're recording it for them so they can watch it at home. And if you guys want it as well, we'll link it to you guys if you guys just want to refer it back to. Have something to refer back to. Thanks, Sarah. All right, guys. Well, I am Veronica. I have been here at Dane's for about 6.5 years. I started a long time ago here. The nutrition program has really grown since then. I started on a little desk out in the corner over here taking consults. I mean, you remember, it was great. So it grew from there, and it's just grew, and it's flourished. And I actually left to school and came back, and it still kept running. So I need to do something with it because I'm getting a lot of really good feedback. Real quick, I am a registered dental hygienist. That's like opposite of what I do. But actually, we took a lot of nutrition courses in the classes that we had for dental hygiene. So it all starts with the food that you eat. So how appropriate it is for me to be a nutritionist and then have that background. So I was actually I am a personal trainer through the NASM. I'm a corrective specialist. Babe.
And a mom. It's familiar.
I know. Mom, yeah, my son's 11 months, so he's really cute. And it's a lot to take in, but as Ryan knows, right? It's a lot. But you kind of have to learn, what comes first. And for me, it's my health and nutrition. I've been doing this for, 6 years. But before that, I was working at GNC. So supplements, hay, gold card, all that stuff. So that gave me a really good base, pretty much, like doing the supplements, doing all the vitamins and all that stuff, really gave me a really good base. And then I was a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness in Gold's Gym. So that's kind of like my story, my background. I love nutrition. I study it like almost every day. That's what I do. I love to do it. So I finally, one day I was just tired of like yo-yo dieting and doing grapefruit diets and cabbage diets and all this crazy stuff. I'm like, there has to be another way. Like, this is just insane. It's like, who's going to eat grapefruit for a full 30 years of their life or whatever? So I just started doing research. And then finally one day it clicked and I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like, protein, carbs, and fat. And so that's what we'll be talking about in the first part. And that's the first tool that we're going to talk about real quick. I do want to read over the first part just to kind of give you like a preface of what the tools are going to be or what the program is. So I'm just going to read the beginning. It says, the goal of this program is to get you to your 7-week fitness goal using the program and tools using the program tools and still have a life. There are no restrictions or meal plans within the next 7 weeks. That being said, it doesn't mean that you get to coast through this and have a six-pack or know everything about nutrition by the end of the program. This will be the hardest thing you will do. Why? Because this will consume your daily life. I'm being totally honest here, but your efforts will equal your results. It is a challenging program because you decide your results. You put in the work. I do not expect perfection. I want consistency and no excuses. Once you are consistent with your new mindset and routine is when everything starts to click and you start seeing results and feel so amazing, you will not want to stop. And if you do stop, you know how to get back on track, right? All right, guys. So real quick, there's 5 steps. I try to break it down as best to my ability. So you guys have like just 5 little steps to look at. So if you ever get stuck, you can always go back to these, okay? So let's talk about the very first one, and it's going to be the most important one. It's pretty much looking at food as either a protein, a carb, or a fat, okay? Those are the breakdown. So we live off of 3 macronutrients, right? We live off of protein, carbs, fat, water, vitamins, right? But the water and vitamins, it's like, yeah, we have to have water. So let's break it down real quick. You're free to write on your little sheet, but I like to do it. If you have taken a consultation with me, you've pretty much seen these letters, which is protein, fat, and carbs, right, Tulsi? Yes. So it's a really good refresher as well, too. So, all right. So can anyone tell me why we need protein in our diet? Like, why do we eat protein? Yeah, perfect. So you have lean tissue, right? So you come in here, you work out, you break down tissue. You want to make sure that you're having enough protein throughout the day to replenish the muscle that you're tearing down, right? So typically for women, it's about 100 grams of protein. And then for guys, it's about 125 grams. Okay, so that's pretty much average of what I've seen throughout the years. If you hit that, you're pretty much set. Okay, so the second thing you look for is fat. So why do you want to have fat in your diet? Yeah. Good. So it helps support, right, all your organs. It also helps transport nutrients, so like all your fat-soluble vitamins, non-fat-soluble vitamins. So you want to make sure you're having a really good amount throughout the day, so that way you're actually transferring those vitamins into your cell and putting all those nutrients to use, right? The other thing it does is also regulates hormones. So people that are having like low T or estrogen dominance, you're pretty much not having enough fat throughout the day to sustain your hormones being regulated. So if you're going like low fat, that's not good because your hormones are made all of fat, right? So you got to make sure you're having enough fat throughout the day, just a little bit to get it into your cell. All right. This is my favorite one because everybody leaves this poor little guy out right here, right? So we all hate carbs, right? Yeah, we hate to love them. So, all the carbs. So this is where it gets kind of tricky, is the carbs. I like to categorize them under 3 categories, which is fibrous. This is simple and complex. Okay. All right. So, can I kneel? Okay. So, the 3 categories that I like to place them under is fibrous, simple, and then complex. So your fibrous carbohydrate, I say this is a given because these are going to be all your veggies. Okay? Your simple is straight up sugar. And then your complex carbs are anything that's really starchy. Okay? So your given, I say vegetables, is because you can have a bag full of spinach and you get through that bag full of spinach and you're like, I don't want any more spinach, versus like getting a bag of potato chips and you're like, I want more potato chips. So it's going to be really hard for you to exceed your calorie intake or your carb intake doing a vegetable. So that's why I say like those are a given. Throw them in there whenever you can throughout the day because it'll keep you full for longer and it's the fiber, right? All your simple sugar is going to be anything that spikes your insulin level pretty quickly. So like fruit, well, it's a simple sugar. All the stuff we like to eat, so like the chocolates, the donuts, the cookies, and all that's great, yummy stuff, it's going to be under simple complex carbs because it shoots that insulin high. And then the last thing you want to think about is your starchy carbs. So this is going to be like your beans, your lentils, your sweet potato, rice is going to be under complex carbs, okay? All right, so what you're going to think about is when you look at a carb is you want to think of a glycemic index. Have you guys ever heard of the glycemic index? Okay, so you want to think of each of these 3 categories having a range, right? So you're going to have a range that's pretty sugary and not so sugary, okay? So let's take for example, all your fibrous vegetables. You're going to have fibrous vegetables that are more sugary, so like your sweet peas, your snap peas are going to be a lot more sugar, your carrots versus your not so sugary stuff. So you're going to have like your kale, your cabbage, the leaner leaves, right? So all your stuff's going to be leaned out here, so less sugar. Same thing with your simple. It's going to be your sugary end is all the stuff we like to eat, like your donuts, your Frosted Flakes, your, I don't know, chocolate, all that stuff's going to be on that sugary end. And then versus like your fruits. So your fruits are going to start to be lean out. So you're going to have your mangoes are sugary. You're going to have, I don't know, let's say pears get less sugary. And then you have green apple, less sugary. All your berries are going to be on the low end because they have the least sugar. Okay? So if I were to say, okay, I don't know, let's say I wanted a donut. And then I think, okay, do I want the donut or can I have another simple complex carb that is not going to spike my insulin level? And there's going to be days where I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go with the berries and maybe some yogurt. And there's going to be days, well, I'm just going to go with that donut. Okay? And then I'll show you guys how to pair stuff so that way you can have the donut and put it to use. So you're just not like having a donut and then just sitting around wait for the day to end so tomorrow you can start all over, right? So complex carbs, the same thing applies. So you're going to have your sugary stuff. So like your white rice, your white breads are going to spike your insulin level pretty quickly versus like your brown rice, your quinoa is going to be a lot leaner in sugar on the less sugary end. Okay. All right. So so there is a place and a time for all of these. Fibrous carbs are going to be anytime. That's your given, okay? Throw those in there. Can make me happy. Make yourself happy. Simple carbohydrates are going to be the best in the morning or right after your workout. And the reason is because you're having all day to burn it off. And after your workout, your body is like, it wants sugar because it just depleted all the glycogen from the muscles, and that's sugar. So it's gonna soak it up super quick. So it's going to put it to use really fast. So that's why you want to have those in the morning or like right after your workout. Your complex carbs, you're going to do for sure morning and then a little bit for lunch, and then towards the end of the night you want to start to lean off of the complex starchy stuff. So I always do maybe half a cup or less. Depending on like what your goals are. If your goals are to either gain muscle, you might end up eating a little bit more than half a cup because your body needs the glycogen to repair muscle at night. And then if you're trying to lean out, you want to go half a cup or less for sure. And this is the reason why. So when you're at rest, your body burns fat for fuel. So your body, you guys sitting here right now, or if you're watching TV, if you're at your desk, when you're asleep, your body is burning fat for fuel because it needs to stay alive, right? When you're moving around, when you're doing something explosive, when you're working out, your body will use carbohydrates for fuel, okay? So let's just say like it's nighttime, you have a big bowl of pasta with some protein in it, and you're like, yes, I did carbs and protein, but you had a big bowl of pasta. So all of that carbohydrate is going to get stored because your body burns what for fuel at night? Fat. So yeah, so it's like, well, we don't need this right now, let's just store it until we need it later. So that's why you want to try to lean off towards the end of the day, okay?
When you say half a cup, you mean like at a meal or?
At night.
At night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, during the day you can add a little bit more because you have all day to burn it off. Yeah. So you want to do like a cup in the morning, like do a cup of oatmeal, do a cup of brown rice in the afternoon. Okay. Cool. All right. So let's go through one thing real quick before I take this off. Your meal plan. What I'm trying to create is a base for you guys. So I'm trying to create a base so that if you fall off a track, you know where to start, or you know where to pick it up from. So for example, every day you're gonna do, I'm gonna erase this real quick. You're gonna do, let's do breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I think we did talk about this. It's in the next sheet actually. Yes. Okay. All right, so let's go through number 2 before I move on to that then. So what we're gonna do is, what is your base? So for me, my base is looking at food as either a protein, a carb, or a fat. Because I know when I'm out at a restaurant, I always look for a protein, I always look for some type of fat, and then I always look for a carbohydrate. And I ask myself, okay, well, what time is it? Can I afford to eat it? Like, yeah, I worked out today and it's in the middle of the day. Okay, I'm gonna have 2 tortillas. Does that make sense? These are always a given. So your fibers, carbs, just throw them in there, okay? So that's my base. There's people that have done the program and then they find out that their base is keto. So they do keto about maybe 6 days, 7 days, or 6 days out of the week. And then the other days they kind of fall off of it and then they just get right back on. But that's their base. So you have to find what's yours. Like, is it vegan? Is it vegetarian? Is it paleo? Is it Atkins? Just don't tell me it's Weight Watchers. Okay. So some people do carb cycling. So you have to sit down and ask yourself, like, what's your base? What's your standard, right? Because this is why I created this, is because people come up to me and they're like, well, my friend just did keto and lost 10 pounds. And so I want to do keto now. But then what's going to happen when they do? It's going to work, but what's going to happen when they lose 10 pounds and they're like, I'm sick and tired of doing keto. I don't want to do it anymore. They're going to gain it all back, right? So that's what you don't want to do. You want to use the fad diets. They do work, but you want to throw them in there when you're stuck. Like when you have nowhere else to go and you've had a really good base and you're like, I've been working out, I've been tracking my food, I've been doing this, like, I don't know what's wrong, I've been hitting it, and maybe I need carb cycling. So then that's where you would kind of guess to see where you are, okay? But you always have this to fall back on, okay? All right, so why and when to track your food and weight. So this is the thing, a lot of people start saying, well, I don't want to track my food, I don't want to do that. I understand, like, if you have a complex with it or you just don't want to do it. The only reason why I say do it for at least, give me 4 weeks, right? Because then you know how much you're eating, you know what you're taking in, you know how much space in between you're eating your meals, right? So it's good to track, but I wouldn't track all year round. That would drive you nuts, right? If you could just keep tracking all year, do it for a while until you figure out where you are. Same thing with your weight. If you don't like to weigh, that's fine. You can use an article of clothing. Usually the scale, I like to pair it up with the body fat because if you're losing body fat and you're losing weight, you're heading in the right direction, right? Because if you're losing weight and you're staying at your body fat, that means you're losing muscle, and that's what we don't want. So I usually like to pair them together, but I only recommend that you do the weight if you have like certain dates. Like, I'm going to do this for 6 weeks. I'm going to weigh in the beginning, I'm going to weigh in the middle, and I'm going to weigh at the end. So don't do it every day for a full year. That'll drive you nuts, okay? So just only for a short period of time, I would recommend that you do the weight, the scale weight, and the tracking. So every once in a while when you feel stuck, you feel like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, the apps are great for that. So that's a really good tool to have in your little phone and to always go back to, okay? If you're competing or you're training for an event, that's a really good time to track your food. Because you need to be a little bit more strict, but you need to make sure that your base is really good, right? Because if your base is not good, then you can't tighten up anywhere. You're kind of just lost, okay? All right. Let's go through number 4 real quick. So you want to work your way up to your lean macros, and this is where we're going to kind of set up your program. So you are obviously specifically to your own program, but so let's go through phase 1. So phase 1 would be you don't track at all. This is pretty much like somebody who has never done anything before like this and they're kind of scared to track. So the first thing you would do is don't track. Just Just leave it alone, leave it for later. You can always use it later. Listen to your body. So that just means like if you have gluten or you have a piece of bread and you're like, I just feel nasty, I feel gross, like, and I didn't even overdo it on that piece of bread, I just feel heavy. So then you would take it out, right? You wouldn't add that back into your diet. If you having too much protein at one meal, you're like, man, that 4 or 5 ounces of protein is just way too much for me. I feel sick. So then you'd have to just backtrack. So just be a little bit more aware of how the food's making you feel throughout the day or after the meal, so that way you can start taking things out. Okay. Going out to dinner, that's a really big thing here. So during the week, just try to cut it back to once a week. You know, if you're doing it every single day, you need to trim it back. So at least once a week, right? So work is not an excuse. So that means you have to prep your food. That means you have to be prepared. That means you have to cook your food. If you know your job is stressful and you're there from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m., you need to take your food with you, okay? I cook all my food beforehand because I'm gone, I'm out the door about 5:30 at night and I don't get home till about 6:30, 5:30 in the morning till 6:30 at night. So I prep all my food either the day after, and then if I don't, I have my Fitness Pal to track when I'm doing it, when I am tracking. If I'm not tracking, I use protein, carbs, and fat, and I use breakfast, lunch, and dinner because everybody eats 3 square meals a day, right? So just add a protein, a protein, a protein, a fat, a fat, a fat, and a carb, a carb, a carb. Okay? So you would do breakfast, protein, carb, fat, lunch, protein, carb, fat, dinner, protein, carb, and a fat. Okay? So this is like your base, like your setup. Your fibrous carbs are going to be your given. So that's going to be your little star. So I always just say like, this is your given. You can have as many vegetables as you want. So for example, for breakfast, if I were stranded, I don't know, sometimes I get stranded at People's Pharmacy. So I'll do like the little tacos that they have there. And I'll get egg white, because that's my protein, and then I'll get like any vegetable I want, so like tomato, spinach, I don't load it up, like just throw it in there. And then I'll probably do like some potato, if they have potato there, because that's my starchy carb. Or you can have a corn tortilla or almond flour tortilla, whatever you want in there. So I usually just do like potato, and then I do either bacon or avocado for my fat, if I get stranded. But if I don't, then I just cook it at home and I take it with me, okay? So the same rule applies for lunch. So let's just say you're stuck at, I don't know, Central Market. What would you do for protein? Let's just say chicken. And then any vegetable. So grab a vegetable, load it on your tray. And then it's a carb. So it's like during the day, you have all day to kind of burn it off. So I would do like black beans. And then for your fat, you could do avocado. Or if you're gonna do a salad dressing, that would be your fat. Cool? And then for dinner, same thing applies. You do like maybe like a steak. So let's just say you do a steak and it's a really like a fatty steak. I would count that as my fat and my protein. And the way you know if something is a protein or a fat is if you look at the back of the nutrition label, you'll have your calories, and then you'll have your fat, your protein, and your carbs, right? So let's just look, for example, let's do peanut butter. So peanut butter, let's say 15 grams of fat for 1 tablespoon, and then you have like 7 grams of protein, and then you have like 2 grams of carbs. What is this food? It's a fat. So same thing applies. Look at the back of the nutrition label. Some of them are tricky, like the yogurts. Some yogurts have higher protein intake. They'll have like, I don't know, 17 grams per container, and then the sugar's super low. And then you look at another brand, and it'll be like the other way around. It'll be like super high in carbs and then lower in protein. So then you would categorize them under a protein and a carb. That's the way I've always done it, and it's worked. So back to the phase, kind of look to see where you are. and which phase you think you'll start at, or if you haven't started on phase 1, you kind of want to start from the bottom, you can start there. Phase 2 is eating at least 3 square meals a day. Okay, so that's where you would have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a protein, carb, and a fat. And if you work out, you can have a protein shake in there. It's easy. And if you get hungry throughout the day, have a snack. What's up?
Sorry, I just have one clarification. For like the breakfast one, what if you're doing that without the potatoes, like the complex carbs? Are you saying I should add that in?
So you can have another complex carb.
Okay.
Like you could have sweet potato. But yeah, you need to have a complex carb.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the rule. Like it's number 2. It's having 3 square meals a day with a protein, a carb, and a fat. Okay. Yeah. So every meal should have a protein, carb, and a fat. Okay. So back to this real quick. When you go out to eat, I always do. The order I eat it in, not to say like I eat my protein first and then I eat, like I want to make sure that I have a good amount of protein in there, and then I load up on the vegetables, and then you load up on the whatever you have left for like the complex carb, and then a little bit of fat at the end. Okay, so a little bit of fat means like a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of something. So that's what you want to do for the breakfast, lunch, and dinner when you're out to eat. It's the same rules apply. So it's like you wouldn't tell your kids to have ice cream first before they have their food, right? So you wouldn't want to do like all your, I don't know, say you wouldn't want to have all your brown rice first. You want to have all your good nutrients first because you'll get full on the good stuff first versus you just having your complex carbs. So load up on the good stuff first before you load up on the complex carbs. All right. So phase 2 is this 3 square meals. Phase 3 is how to track your macros. So that's where you can start entering them in the MyFitnessPal. And then the calculations are here. So it's going to be your weight in pounds times 10. So that's just like the basic calculation for that to get your maintenance calories. So that's not with exercise. That's just like you living, sitting here, breathing, staying alive. Then you take your maintenance calories and you multiply that by 1.3 or 2.3. So 1.3 is the low end. So like if you're sitting at a desk all day, if you're not moving around a lot, you're gonna do 1.3 versus if you're out delivering mail, doing UPS stuff, you're on the higher end. So you're gonna need more calories, right, to function. I usually sit around like a 1.6 because I'm pretty active and I stay out all day throughout, I'm not at home all day. So I'll do like 1.6. So I'll do my maintenance calories times 1.6, okay? So once you get that, you decide if you want to gain muscle or if you want to lose body fat. So by that you do, you either add 500 calories to that to the maintenance calories plus your activity, or you do minus or you do plus 500, right? To gain muscle. Phase 4 is where it gets really tricky, and people tend to start on phase 4 because they want to see results so fast that they're just like, yes, take all my body fat, give me exactly what I need, my breakdown. But if they don't have a good base, this doesn't last very long. This lasts 2 weeks. 3 weeks on the program is the hardest week. Usually by 3 weeks, everybody's like, I'm over this. Like it's hard because they're tired of tracking. They're tired of prepping their food. They don't want to do all that, right? So phase 4 is going to be tracking macros using your body fat percentage, and that gets a little bit more detailed. So if you are on phase 4 and you're for sure on phase 4, I can get your body fat, and then we can set up your macros that way using your body fat. Okay. On the side note, if you have been dieting for over 2 years, that means like you have been, yo-yo dieting, and then you get back on it within 2 weeks, and then you're like, oh, that didn't work out so well. It's like, okay, I'm gonna try it again. And then, oh no, I'm gonna try it again. So if you've been doing that consistently for about 2 years, you need to start from phase 1. You start from the very bottom, okay? So that means track your meals, just have body fat. When I saw the questionnaires to a lot of you guys doing filling out the questionnaires, you guys are great because you're so motivated with the workouts. You're kind of iffy with the nutrition. You're like, I guess, you know, I guess I could do that. I guess I could track. But then when I said list your workouts, you guys are like, yoga, fusion, strength, boot camp, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dang. So you could overtrain, guys. So you might be overtraining. So if you're a beginner and you just want to get to your goal so fast, just take it easy. Like, let your body get fuel first from your food versus you just going all out with the workouts, because you're going to get burnt out. So the beginner is usually, it's about 1 to 2 days of actually like a good workout, like full body workout. Okay. Intermediate is you've been consistently working out for 2 years with no gaps. So like it's your face is here like for 2 solid years, right? So that would be about 3 to 4 days. Advanced would be 2 to 3 years of consistently no big gaps, and you're consistently doing it for 5 to 6 days a week. Expert, you're training for an event. You work your workouts mimic the athletic performance that you're doing. So if like you're training for a weightlifting competition or something, then you would come into the gym because you have a goal in mind to lift a deadlift or something, right? I always say do something that you enjoy doing. There are going to be times where you're not going to want to do it, but you need to learn when is a good time to pull back, and then when is a good time to, no, I need to do it. I need to push forward. So that means if your goal is to lose, if you're already pretty lean and your goal is to lose, I don't know, 5 pounds, it's going to be a lot harder for you to lose 5 pounds versus somebody who needs to lose 30 pounds, right? So somebody who's already really lean, they're going to have to do cardio. They're going to have to do cardio 4 days a week, 5 days a week, because it's going to be a lot harder for them to lose that cardio. If you're doing cardio and you need to lose 30 or 40 pounds, if you're doing cardio every single day, you have nowhere to go. After that, it's like, what are you going to do after you lose 30 pounds? You're going to have to do cardio every single day to keep your maintenance. So fix your food first, get in some good little workouts, and then you have a little bit of wiggle room once you get really lean, because then you're like, now is when I need to do 5 days a week of cardio. Does that make sense? You want to have some leeway between you and your goal. You don't want to just go, go, and then you get halfway there and you're like, oh, I've used up everything. Like, I've used up all my cardio sessions. There's not 8 days in a week. There's only 7. So you want to start slow and then work your way up to where you really have to push through. If you've done everything pretty much here and then you're plateaued, switch it up. So that just means, like, you see the macro percentages up here where it says like 40, 30, 30. I put that on there because that's like the base standard for a good macro percentage. That means like protein, carbs, and fat. If you're plateaued, then that's when you go up here and you start changing the percentages. So that means you might try 30% carbs, a different amount of protein, different amount of fat. And the only way you know if it will work for you is if you change it and then you track it. And if you're like, yeah, I feel good in my clothes, I feel different, then those macros are working for you, okay? But this is a really good starter macro base. But if you've plateaued, go back to these percentages and play around with them. Cool? All right. Did we all do the 7-week goal already? And then did we meet each other? Did we meet the partners? Is there anyone who didn't meet their partner that's here? Yeah. All right, guys. So what? Do you guys have questions on this? It's hard, right? So look to see where you are. What phase are you in? And if you don't know, you're probably on phase 1, honestly. Okay. And if you want to start with phase 1, and your phase 1 might be a week. Try it for a week and you're like, I kind of get that. Okay, go to phase 2. Then start doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, protein, carb, and fat. And if you're like, oh, within a week, you're like, yeah, I got this. I'm taking my food with me. I'm having breakfast. I'm having lunch. I'm having dinner. I'm ready to do step 3. Then you do your little calculation, and then you add your macros. You start tracking it on your phone, and then you start. This is usually where people start seeing the best results, is because they start tracking their food and stuff like that. And then obviously phase 4 is going to be a little bit more tweaky. So again, if you don't know where you are, start from phase 1. That's the base, okay? If you ever get stuck, you always can go back to this. Yes?
The 3 squares and the snack with, if we're starting in phase 2, what do you recommend we build for the snack? Is it a protein, carb, fat?
No, that's a really good question though. So your snack would be like, sometimes my protein's higher, like my protein content's higher, so I would need a protein to fill up that protein at the end of the day. So I would do maybe like a Greek yogurt, and I could afford some berries, I'll put in some berries in there. Or if I want to do granola, if I'm feeling crazy, I'll put some granola in there. And if not, if I'm like on a low carb day, then I'll just do the Greek yogurt. So you can play around with it, yeah. So, and then this is why it's hard, because you don't know where you are. You don't know what foods you're gonna eat or what foods you're gonna enjoy to eat or not to eat. So it's gonna be hard, because you're gonna have to start cooking and start actually asking yourself what foods you wanna eat. So there is no restrictions. There is no like, here only eat lima beans and bone broth, right? Yeah, exactly. What's up, sir?
Oh, my question was just for the workouts. How do you know if you're overtraining or undertraining?
You would know if you're overtraining, like if your food's on point and you're still not losing weight and you're still not getting any gains or body fat loss, then you need to pull back on something. Like it really depends on your food and how long you've been doing it. But the first thing you want to do is fix your food. Fix your food first, and then ask yourself if you're overtraining. If you're tired, if you have 30 to 40 pounds to lose, and you know that you're coming in 6 days a week, you're probably overtraining. Like you don't need to do that much. You just need to come in, move your body, move around, fix your food. Once you get leaner, then you start adding all that crazy stuff in there. You start doing cardio in the afternoons, maybe 4 days a week, 5 days a week. If you need to lose 5-10 pounds, you probably are in that category. You're probably in that category where you need to push, because you need to lose that 5-10 pounds. If you need to lose 50 to 60, 40, you can probably lean back and just hit it like 2 to 3 days a week. That's a really good question.
What if you have a hard time getting your protein? I can never meet.
So like,
Eat or eggs or something every meal.
So I do a protein supplement. So I do the vegan, the Vega, or the, I'll send you guys some links to some different ones. There's plant-based protein, there's whey protein, milk protein. So it depends on what your preference is. Like sometimes I get sick and tired of whey. I'm tired of that flavor, I'm tired of that taste. I'm gonna switch to a plant-based protein, and it's probably healthier. So I usually do a plant-based protein the majority of the year, and then if I get sick and tired of it, I just switch it over to another whey. What's up?
Would creatine supplement be okay on this, or would that be something
The creatine's fine. So what the creatine does is creates water in your muscle. So you push harder and you lift heavier. You can do it. The only thing is I would cycle off of supplements. The only supplement that I would recommend that you do is like a protein powder, like a fish oil, a vitamin, a multivitamin every single day. Creatine, anything that stimulates you, like caffeine, pre-workout, that's all stressors in your body. And what it's going to do is it raises your cortisol levels, and it's going to help. It's not going to help you. It's going to do the opposite. So I like to do those in cycles. So I'll do them for like 6 weeks, maybe two full months, and then I'll lean off of it. Yeah. But when I do creatine, I make sure I'm lifting heavy weight throughout the full cycle that I'm doing, and then I get off of it. Yeah? All right. What's up?
Did you just say no caffeine
Yeah.
before the workout?
Yes. So this is the trick. If you have been doing caffeine for, yeah, I know. It sounds horrible. It's like, everybody does. Everybody does. So this is the thing, you guys. You have to think about it. If you're stressed out at work, if you have kids and you're stressed out at home, and you're always causing stress on your body. When you come here to the gym, you're causing stress in your body. It's a fight or flight. Your body's like sending out signals that you need. Yeah. So and then you put more stimulants on top of that. So you're doing like a pre-workout, coffee in the morning, coffee in the afternoon. It's like all the stimulant. Well, where does it go? Does caffeine just magically sprinkle happiness and like energy in your body? So what happens is you're think about it this way. This is what pulls me back from eating a lot of crappy this end, or the sugary end, is think about the way things get processed in your body, and then that'll pull back a lot of stuff, right? So for example, when I was pregnant, I love giving this example, I craved Whataburger every single day. I wanted it so bad. And I would go on 35 and I'd be like, okay, well, if I get off of 35, my last exit, because there was that Whataburger, if it's still there, because I know it will be, and I still want it, I'm just going to have it, right? So this is what I would do. I'd be like, okay, well, is it good for my gut? No. Is it going to make me feel nasty? Yeah. Is it going to be like, is my liver going to have to process all that stuff? Your kidneys is going to have to process all that stuff. It's going to have to get passed through your intestines. Like, think about it. All this stuff is happening in your body, right? So by the end of when I got off the exit, I'm like, nah, I don't want it. So, and then there was days where I did. I pulled into Whataburger and I was like, I'll have water and fries. Like, I didn't even order it. I think it was just like going in there, something about just going in there and just talking to the little screen or something. I don't know. It was just something like that I had to go in there and do it. So if you think about it, what's happening to your body, you'll pull back less on stuff like that. And so caffeine's a huge one. People are so stressed out nowadays with like work, job, everything. I mean, most of your questionnaires, you guys are stressed out because of work, right? So then you go home or right before work, you get coffee. Right before your workouts, you get coffee. With your friends, you get coffee. It's the same thing. So your body, your poor adrenal glands, they're sending out that message like you need to move, you need to fight, you need to run. So if you're consistently causing your adrenal glands to do that, your hormones climb, and that means your cortisol hormone climbs. And your cortisol hormone is the hormone that stores fat. So you're constantly saying store fat. Okay, so I'm not saying don't ever drink coffee. I'm saying if you know you've been doing it for like a year straight, you need to give it a break, because you need to give your body a break. Like you give it a break. If you want to try like maybe doing decaf or half and half, that's fine. So just you want to find a way to just give it a break. It's 6 weeks, 7 weeks. What is the program? 7 weeks. 3 weeks, whatever you can give me within the next 7 weeks, do what you can. But just think about how it's getting processed in your body, and you will make better choices, I promise you.
Is that
Yes.
people who are drinking 3 cups a day or like a cup a day?
Drinking like half a cup.
Give it a try. Don't do it.
All right.
And if you're drinking 1 cup a day, it doesn't matter, right? Then it shouldn't matter.
It's more habit than anything.
For sure.
Not that I'm like, I need coffee.
Just try something else. Try something else. Green tea's fine. It's fine. It does have caffeine in it, but you just try to alternate it with something else. Again, the thing about this program is there's no restriction. I want you to guys actually think about the process and what's happening to your body. because that will make you decide better choices, like when you're out to eat. So this is another one, like if you go out to eat with your friends or you're at brunch and you want to get mimosas, like we do, okay? So what is a mimosa? What is champagne?
Sugar.
Is it a protein, a carb, or a fat?
Carb.
Yeah. So if it's a carb, okay, I want to drink a mimosa, I'm in. Okay, I'm not compromising my mimosa. What am I missing? Protein. So then to have a protein, you're given is your vegetable, and then have a little bit of fat. You can't have a complex carb because that's your, you can have a bite. That's your sacrifice, yeah. So I would do like maybe 2-3 mimosas and then do like maybe half a pancake. Girl, we do brunch, right? How'd you know? So that's the way I do it. If I want a margarita that day, I just don't have chips and salsa, and then I'll do fajitas and then vegetables. So that's my carb. It doesn't matter what it is. If you just look at food as a protein, a carb, or a fat, it's there, okay?
But doesn't the pancake help you not soak up the alcohol nearly as much?
Yeah.
So you're not, you don't
Yes.
feel really strong?
Yes.
So no
Yes, it does.
coffee, but we so it's really a health
Check. So same thing applies, right? So alcohol is it's a toxin. I know they say wine's like good for you and all this stuff. It doesn't matter. Your body doesn't need alcohol to live, right? Your body needs protein, carbs, and fat. Yeah, if you have kids, yeah. All right, guys. So those are a couple of stressors. So some things that will set you back is not being prepared is number one. You'll get it. Watch out for your accountability partner, because you'll get a lot of excuses saying like, oh, it's because my work. Oh, it's because my kids. Oh, it's because it's because I didn't prep my food and I wasn't prepared. That's really what happened. Okay. Some days you're not going to be prepared. Some days I'm like, ugh, I don't want to cook. I don't want to do that. So I just do this when I go out. And I'm just going to have to eat out one day when I'm at work. It's just going to have to be, because I was so tired to do it the next day. So, but majority of the time, if you're cooking and you're taking your stuff with you about 4 or 5 days out of the week, it's going to be a pattern, and you're just going to do it naturally. And you're going to do it for a long period of time. And then on the weekends, you can use this. Yeah? Okay. We just talked about caffeine, stimulants, lack of support. You do have an accountability partner that's going to help you guys with each other, keep a little bit more track. I am going to be here. So if you're in a track and you have MyFitnessPal, you need to friend me, because I will randomly give you a pop quiz. Just kidding. But I'll be like, okay, what did you do on Monday? Like you didn't finish your login, or what are you doing? Like I'll randomly pop in there and then be like, hey, what are you doing? Like what's going on here? So I sounded like my mom there. What are you doing? What's going on here? So I'll randomly like hit you guys up to see what you guys are doing. If you guys are stuck, please come see me. I am here. I will sit down with you for 20-30 minutes if you need to. And if you need to put down your program, I will sit down with you and do that. So you pretty much have me for the full 7 weeks. I put my phone number on the email, I think, that I sent, the very first one, and my phone number. If you're at a buffet and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to get, send me a picture of it and I will help you guide through a protein, a carb, and a fat, right? Send me pictures. Like, you're not bothering me at all. Like, I love to do this and I'd love to help you guys. So use me as your tool to guide you through it. If you're like, what's quinoa? Like, it's a protein, right? Like, it is a higher grain. It's a higher protein content for a carbohydrate. But it's not considered a protein, because if you look at the back of the nutrition label, it's a higher carb content. So for me, that's a carb. But for vegans or vegetarians, that's a great source of protein. Yeah. So so if you're like vegan, vegetarian, you could throw in, so your protein and your carbs would be like a little circle, right? So you would do lentils and quinoa, because that ups your protein. So you're gonna have to figure out what plants and what legumes are the highest content, and that's going to be classified as your proteins, right? So that should be the top of your list. Like spinach has a higher protein content. So you're just gonna have to link these two guys together. That's what happens. Okay. All right. Too many processed foods. I know there's a lot of healthy stuff out there with that you can pick. You know, like what is that? Quest bars and Crunch bars and all these bars that everybody's doing. Those are great if you're in a pinch and if you don't have time. Yes, those are good. But if you're doing one every single day, what does that mean? You're not prepared. Yeah. So prepare your food. If you're stuck and you're like, I haven't had a bar all week, just have it. Okay. If you're consistently doing a bar every day, no. Okay. Or you can do it for like 2 weeks and then lean off of it, get off of it. So anything prepackaged, obviously, if it's healthy or not, just try to not to do it. Okay. If you know you've been doing it for a long time, it's probably time for you to get off of it. Okay. Also, another thing to start noticing throughout the full 7 weeks is if you notice patterns, like little things that you do. Maybe you fall off on Thursdays or maybe you fall off on Fridays and you're like, dang, I'm consistently doing that. You need to find another way to get out of that. So if you're consistently falling off on Fridays, you need to either plan your meals better during the day on Friday, and then towards the end of the night, you're like, that's just gonna be my open meal. I'm just gonna have my protein, carbs, and fat and not track it, just enjoy going out to eat, okay? Just notice patterns and then try to find solutions to that. And we talked about this one is you talk yourself through your decisions instead of out of them. So for example, if you have a donut, you just say, oh no, donut's bad, it's gonna make me fat. Like, no, there's no such thing as a good and bad food. It depends on what your goals are. So if you want to nourish your body, do you eat the donut? Yeah. So it's the same thing. You talk yourself through it instead of just being like, no, it's going to make me fat. Okay? In your body breaks down carbohydrate for one of the biggest molecules that it knows is glucose. So it doesn't matter if it's a donut or if it's sweet potato. It breaks it down to sugar. It's sugar. Okay? Carbs is sugar. Fats, triglycerides, amino acids, it's protein. All right? So it's your decision whether you want to have your body break down all the sugar from the donut or break down all the sugar from the sweet potato, but get like nutrients, enzymes, more nutrients versus just eating the donut. And then there's going to be days where you're just like, I'm just going to have that donut. But you made your decision, but you're still going to have a protein and a fat with it. All right? All right. Don't use negative words or punishment. So this is a really big one for your accountability partner. Just try to be encouraging. Try it before you send something. Make sure it sends it in a positive way, versus you just being like, "Hey, what happened? I didn't see you at the gym today." Like you want to say more. Like uplifting and being like, hey, I missed you today. Like, what are you doing right now? And like, just try not to be like scolding somebody for not showing up to class because something might come up, right? Plus, we're working more on fueling your body and doing more nutrition based versus you making sure you come in and get your workouts in. This is like the biggest thing that I could recommend to you guys. Doing nutrition, it's like learning a new language. And people want to learn it in like 2 weeks, right? So they come in, they're like, okay, teach me everything. I am still learning till this day, but I read constantly, every day. But that's what I love to do. So if you can pick up, I brought all my books, and I think Beth brought some too. Read a chapter. I don't care, read every day, read a random chapter if you can from a book. So that way you can start educating yourself and start pushing all the noise away and stop thinking, oh, paleo is the only way or keto is the only way or this. It's like, you don't know that, you know, that's all noise. You learn for yourself what works for yourself, right? And the only way you know is if you read and educate yourself and teach yourself what everything is, right? So I did bring my book. So if you want to check out a couple of books, just write your name on there and then write the book that you checked out. And then the next time we meet for the psychology session, bring it back so that way somebody else could have a chance to read. Cool? All right. Miss Sarah. So I'm gonna have Sarah speak. She's awesome. She started. I'll let her talk. She did the program a couple of times fully, and then the last one has been just amazing. Like it's really, really successful. It took her a while. Just listen to her story real quick. It won't take long. Maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
All right. My name's Sarah. I mainly go to Hyde Park Gym, but I do frequent Maynard every now and then. I've been working with Veronica for a year. So I did a 6-week program with her, and then I thought it was a good idea. Well, I guess let me back off and say why I did it. So I was trying to lose body fat, and basically I was doing the yo-yo dieting, I was trying to do fat diet, I was trying to be paleo, and when that didn't work in a week, I gave up. And so I wanted someone to be, first off, hold me accountable and go on MyFitnessPal and tell me if I'm eating too much sodium or if I'm not hitting my protein or what have you. So I did it with Veronica for 6 weeks, and then I lost, I think, like 10 pounds the first time. And then I tried to do it on my own, and then I just pretty much maintained the whole time, and which at least told me that I learned at least the basics, and I could at least maintain even if I didn't actually finally keep going with it. And then I recently came back this past January. I've been working here literally since January, and I lost another 10 pounds. I lost 8% of body fat at this point. But what Veronica really told me or taught me was about habits. I meal prep all my meals. Every Sunday, I dedicate a couple hours to make my breakfast. At least plan out my breakfast because I cook my breakfast every morning. But plan out all my lunches, all my snacks, and actually plan out most of my dinners. And if I have to make a dinner every now and then, that's fine. Because what I was finding is that if I went home and I was, if you're trying to lose body fat, you're going to be a little hungry. So I got home, I started making my dinner, but then I started picking at things while I'm making my dinner, which is like then all of a sudden you're eating a dinner and a half, the whole thing happens. And the other part I was doing, which some of you may or may not do too, but going out with my friends over the weekend. So all of a sudden I went out on Friday night, and not that I don't do that anymore, but I definitely learned to cut back. But go out on Friday night, have drinks, then you have late night food, and then it just cycles over the whole weekend, or you're hungover the next day, and then you don't want to eat healthy the next day, you want to have macaroni and cheese and like some good hangover food. So I would be great throughout the whole week, and be like, yes, and then I would just spoil it over the weekend. And I guess having Veronica around really held me more accountable throughout the entire week, and and it taught me a lot more about food. I track everything, and I go by macros, so whether or not that's...
But she's on phase 4.
Yeah, so whether or not you're there yet, but I think it's more of a kind of a game, like how could we do the whole whatever fits your macros kind of thing. So 90% of my food is very healthy, and then I try to fit in like my Cheetos or something every now and then I have to. But for me, it's more like playing around and trying to see how much food I can fit into my calories and my macros.
Do you have a stressful job?
I mean, it can be stressful, but I also sit at a desk all day. So, but I'm also the person that brings like a huge cooler of food, and everyone's like, I eat every 2 hours, or else I'll get hangry. What else?
I don't know. She's done really well, but it has taken her a year to get there, and the beginning was rough.
And sometimes I really do get, since I do track everything, I do get overwhelmed at some points, and then I just take a day off or take a couple days off, and I'm like, I need to refresh. I need to not like go on a total bender, but I just need to, I need to not worry about MyFitnessPal, because sometimes it can be stressful after you're trying to log in everything, you've prepped everything, and it can be just kind of exhausting. Because I always think about like new ways I can, I don't know. I constantly meal plan in my head. Oh, I should make that, or just things like that, I guess. But what I do have to say is that my main staple for every lunch is sort of like burrito bowl, because you can make that that. You can make a bunch of ground turkey, quinoa, or rice, whatever you know. And I just do that for the whole week. And then I don't have to worry about lunch. And also going out to eat was also a big problem for me because anytime you go out to eat, you really have no idea what they're putting into the food. How much oil they're using when they're cooking, and all of a sudden, without you knowing, you thought you ordered something super healthy. It turned out to be like 800 calories. So I really toned down on the drinking and the going out to eat. But yeah. That's,
So those were the patterns that you found.
those are my patterns, yeah. That
Right.
I was, go out drinking on the weekend, then that would be,
So-
unhealthy food and
So my pattern recently has been picking at my kids' food. And they're like dinosaur little thing. Like, I don't even like them, but he eats them and he looks so cute eating them that I'm just like, oh, that's so cute. So that's my pattern. I'm like, okay, I need to stop doing that because it just like, it adds up. And then I looked at the back of the nutrition labels and I was like, oh my God, I'm just eating sugar. And I'm feeding my kids sugar. So those are like little things and it happens, like little things that just happen throughout your day and it just consistently, you're like, oh my God, like I do that, right? Thank you. That was awesome. Good job.
And if anyone is on MyFitnessPal, you can friend me and look at my food log anytime if you need inspiration or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Mine's always open so you guys can see or you can see what kind of foods she's eating and like, oh, I could try that. Like maybe I'll pair it with that. So mine's always up. You guys can look at mine, but you just need to friend me to look at your food log. And then if you don't want to look at your food log, let me know what you're doing or let your partner know what you're doing. So that way we can keep track of you that way. Okay. So at this point, I want you and your partner to talk. And that way you can get the answers that you wrote down with each other so you know where your partner is and like how they're going to create their program and where they're going to start. Yes.
Just a question, clarification of the carbs. So are you saying that you usually either do a fibrous or simple or complex, but not?
No. Your fibrous carbs are your given. Those are your fun things, right? So like I said, you could eat a bag full of spinach and be so sick and tired of spinach, right? So, I mean, you're never going to finish a bag of spinach, right? Probably, unless you saute it. Yeah. So this is your given. Yeah, if you want to throw in carrots, throw in tomatoes, throw in salsa, those things are the fun things. Like, throw those in there. Yeah. Simple carbohydrates are going to be, remember, morning or after workout. Yeah. And then your complex carbs are going to be leaned out toward the end. By the end of the night, you should be like lean, lean, lean. Because you should have already had most of your complex carbs during the day. Because
I mean that you're not doing like in one meal, you're not doing simple carb and complex carb.
sometimes I do, sometimes, but then I'll trim back on the complex carb, right? So then I would do maybe, I don't know, maybe you'll do like a full packet of, I don't know how you guys do the oatmeal. I do mine by packets. So like if I do a full oatmeal, I'm like, it's the morning, it's not that much oatmeal. I'll just throw in some berries in there because I can afford it. It's like having a bank account like every day. Like don't go over on your bank account, right? You want to budget. That's the same thing. Yeah. So you could have it because it's during the day. Throw it in there. But not at night. Like at night, you should have already had your meals. By the time you get to nighttime, you shouldn't be starving. You should just be like, oh, I'll just have a little bit of something, and I'm hungry enough to eat. But if you're hungry by dinner, either one, you don't have enough calories. That means the activity level, it's probably too low. Or if you're starving by the end of the day, you're not eating your complex carbs during the beginning of the day. So that's another thing that you have to look out for. Okay, if you're starving by the end of the day, yeah, you might be too low on calories. And you're not fueling your body enough. So you have to listen, yeah, that's really good. So you have to listen through it throughout the week.
What veggies are considered complex carbs?
Um, I would categorize like potatoes, red potatoes, sweet potatoes under starchy. Because yes, it's a vegetable, but to me it's still starchy. So I categorize that under.
So what about like carrots or like any other root?
Nope, everything else is good. Your potatoes are pretty much under your. That's the only tricky one. That's. Nope. No, go for it. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah. You won't eat the full squash is what I'm saying. Like you'll eat. So you'll start noticing things. Like once you start tracking, then you'll start noticing things. So that's why I'm saying like start to track your food, because then you start noticing patterns and you're like, oh, I can pull back on that versus you just having it.
I like, for example, today I made a salad at lunch and I had like roasted some butternut squash last night, so I put that on top of my spinach. But I also knew I needed a fat, so I added some cashews to it, not a lot, and I like had put pork tenderloin pieces in one of the kids' lunch that they didn't finish, so I put that on top of the salad. Like, I have zero desire to type in all of these things into MyFitnessPal.
Okay.
Would a scale, like, do you know what because
I do it.
Okay.
That's what I do. So I buy my goal is to get leaner. Well, that's another thing. It's like, for example, like look at Ryan. Ryan looks great, right? But okay, her goal is to tone up her muscle. So for her, she needs to start doing that because she looks great. And so she needs to do something else that's tweaky, that she needs to be more diligent on it versus somebody who needs to lose 30 pounds and doesn't need to do the weight scale. I'm only saying track if you don't know where you are. Like if you don't know where you are, track your food for 2 weeks, 3 weeks and see how you do. And then you start seeing patterns. But yeah, so what I do is I have a scale I got off of Amazon, and then I put the bowl on top of it, a zero out, and then I'll just do the grams from there. Does that make sense? So like I'll zero it out, do avocado, 30 grams of avocado, zero it out, 30 grams of I try to stay with the same number so I remember it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So that way I'm not like, was that 22 or 23? Like it doesn't matter. Just as long as you're around that, you're heading in the right direction. Yeah? It's gonna be hard, guys. So you have me, you have your partner to help. If you get stuck, if you're like, I didn't understand what the heck you said, come see me. I will sit down and I will go through it with you so that way you kind of have more of a directional of where to go. But what I want you guys to do now is just kind of go through with your partner and then get your book if you want to get your book. And then there's food back there for you guys to get. So we'll do that, and then I think that's it, guys. So we'll end it with talking to your partner. Come ask me questions if you have questions right now. I'm going to stick around for about another 30 minutes so you guys can chat after that, okay? So make sure your partner knows who you are, okay?